Alcantar, and this is my exhibition titled Continually the Unnameable Moves On at grayDUCK Gallery here in Austin, Texas. And this show primarily uses a visual strategy that you might be familiar with from charts and maps to talk about human negotiation behavior. It illustrates how the unfolding of narrative occurs because of negotiated choices, and how those same negotiated choices propel us through time.
I've always been a believer that art appeals to or speaks to what is universal in human experience more than to what is particular. So I've really spent my time, both as a student and now as a professional artist, really trying to figure out how to talk about that. Like, what is the one issue that addresses that universality, but that isn't so vague that it gets lost? One idea that I did land on well after I graduated from graduate school was this notion of negotiation behavior. Everybody, regardless of anything about them, regardless of their income level, regardless of their race, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of anything about them, everybody has to negotiate. And I found that to be incredibly fascinating. But more importantly, not everybody is aware of the fact that of what they're negotiating for or how they're negotiating for it. And so I've spent the past few years trying to make work that talks about that educates people about negotiation behavior, mostly because it isn't a visual activity. It's a very internalized activity, this thing of negotiating one's position in life. And so how can we make work, or how can I make work that reveals that activity? And it's been a very, very challenging, but I think it's a really interesting challenge. The decision fan, which is what I call it, in thinking about a person or a party and that moment of choice, you have these options in front of you. And each option takes your trajectory into a different direction. And so the tips of these fans point in different directions. And when you follow the points of these tips, then it can very dramatically lead you into a completely different direction than had you decided on this other option on the other side of the fan. The tables, when we think about negotiation, the image of a table seems to be a pretty obvious choice, a negotiation table. And so I use that as a metaphor for that context in which that activity takes place. And when I have multiple tables piled on top of each other, then I use that as a metaphor for multiple negotiations happening simultaneously. The idea of the decision fans was something that I've had since the beginning. But then when the pandemic happened and everybody went into lockdown, we're all isolating from each other, and we're very practically making decisions about how much risk we're willing to involve ourselves in. The idea of deciding where to go, what activity to do, seemed to be something that I should talk about. And so I made some of these works specifically in reaction to what's happening right now. There's a very real possibility that if you make this decision to go to X place, that consequence could be your undoing or the undoing of one of your loved ones, and you just don't know. There's a very real choice that each of us has to make right now. And again, a lot of this decision making that we make, a lot of the consequences are largely invisible, but it doesn't mean that they're not impactful or they're not substantial. And so again, I'm trying to shine a light on the magnitude of the decisions that we make, seemingly small ones, but could lead to very large consequences if we don't think that far ahead.
So I hope you can make it by. Again, that's at grayDUCK Gallery until August 28th.
August 23rd.
All right, I hope you can make it by. Please set up an appointment. Thank you.